Haven't got as much rain as we would have liked to this summer, or as the amount we usually do, and therefore we're experiencing already drier conditions that are more typical for the middle of winter, and we're only just going into the winter now. So the summer rains have come and gone, and it is, like I say, going to be a hard time of the year for the herbivores out here. Good for the carnivores because they get to prey on the weakening animals. But it certainly already feels quite harsh and dry, and there's a lot of animals that are coming through to the water holes, especially during the hotter parts of the day. Now you'll notice there's a lot of birds on this big male buffalo's back. You can tell he's a male because where his horns meet in the center, there's no hair and there's a large bulge of bone and keratin. They are immensely powerful animals, and you can see how even as he wades through into the dam here, they certainly command a lot of respect out here from the predators, the lion, who are the main predator that will try and attack them, as well as us humans when we're walking around on foot. Here's a lot more of the oxpeckers. You'll notice a lot of them have got their beaks open, and that's again an indicator of how hot it is. That's how they keep cool. They don't sweat like we do, so they're essentially panting. And these are the red-billed oxpeckers. They've got a bright red bill and that yellow ring around their eye. Their cousin, the yellow-billed oxpecker, also has a little bit of red, half yellow, half red on the beak, but no yellow ring around the eye. This is awesome. The buffaloes often don't tolerate them, especially when they get close to the ears. So let's see what happens here. And the ears are a hot spot for the ticks, the ectoparasites that this oxpecker is looking for. It looks like it just got one there. So huge help to the buffalo as it removes possibly hundreds of ticks per day. Adult oxpeckers have been known to feed on between 100 and 200 ticks per day, and those are the fully grown ticks. The smaller ticks they can feed on even more. Now, a question that's been commonly asked and we haven't really responded to too much is that how long will we be going on here for? And that's a great question. We're going to be continuing the Safari Live experience for as long as possible, and as soon as we do know any more information of when future projects may be unfolding, we will certainly keep you updated. But I'm happy to know that we're going to be continuing here on Djuma and Arathusa for the coming months, and it really is going to be wonderful seeing the transition into this dry winter. And like I say, we'll keep you updated as soon as we know what's going on with future projects. The whole team at the moment is really on a high and happy to be out here, and happy to say that there's absolutely no plans in this operation coming to an end, and I'm very happy about that. I feel like every single person involved in this operation, including you the viewers, are incredibly fortunate, because who would have thought it would be possible to join on a live safari from the comforts of your own home, and not only join in but interact with us. For those of you who are new, I will mention again, this is happening this very second in Africa and getting streamed. How exactly, I'm not too sure, but there's some super technology around these days that gets you this picture instantaneously across the world. And we can also answer questions. So if there is anything of interest that you would like to know about what we do out here, please feel free to send questions through to myself, Scott. And to do that, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now, you would never believe it, but that is a very large animal. We'll wait a moment until it pokes its nose out the water again. And you may have just got a glimpse of what looked like almost a little rocks poking out of the water. Now, there's a few animals that it could be. We'll wait for it to pop up. There's something in the background there, but that looks like it could just be a log that would deceive us, or we would possibly think that would be a crocodile, but it's just a few rocks. Oh, there it is. So, you wouldn't believe that all you see there is the two tiny nostrils, or rather large nostrils actually, of a hippopotamus. And they don't float, so it will be standing at a depth where it's easy enough for it just to tilt its head back and poke its nostrils out in order to breathe. And this one seems to be taking a breath about every 20 seconds, I've noticed, but they can hold their breath for about 3 to 5 minutes. You'll notice the wind, you'll probably hear it, as well as see how it's kicking up some ripples on the dam. And what this wind means is it could be bringing weather. There don't seem to be any clouds on the horizon, but changing pressure cells will cause this. And what we can expect the animals to do now is the predators may be more inclined to be hunting, because with all this wind, their approach visually will be blurred, as there'll be lots of movements of the leaves and grasses blowing. But also the audio of them approaching, the noise that they would be making creeping up on any of their prey, would be muffled by the noise of leaves rustling in this wind. So good weather for predators to hunt in, but the prey animals certainly feel vulnerable, so they heighten their senses and can often be quite nervous in this windy weather. So that's what you could expect from the behavior of the animals this afternoon. Now we are going to continue from here and probably head straight off to another waterhole. We'll slowly make our way there. We're probably about 15 minutes away, hoping to find some other animals, possibly some elephants. But it's important to know that those are only the initial plans for the afternoon. Later on, we've got some really exciting prospects. Now, for those of you who didn't join Mark on this morning's safari, he did a great job in tracking down 2 male lions as well as a single lioness. And the single lioness seems to be kind of playing a bit of hard to get with this big male who's very interested in mating with her. There's obviously been a scuffle in the past between the two males that could well be brothers, and the one is dominant over the other, and the dominant one is really interested in this lioness, but she doesn't seem to be easing into him very easily. And lioness may do this because they would like to rather attract as many males to them as possible, that way ensuring that only the biggest and strongest one that competes for her will get to be the father of her next cubs to be. And that's obviously a great way in ensuring that only the strongest genes make it through. So she could just be kind of seeing what her options are at this stage, but who knows what her behavior will be like this afternoon. Mark and all of you that joined, were very fortunate in that the lions vocalized a few times, and if there's one thing, I've said it once but I'll say it again, if there's one thing that I could show guests on safari during their whole stay, it would be to hear lions roaring from close by. So that happened this morning, and we've actually been fortunate on a few drives over the last week or two. So with a bit more luck, and I know we're getting a bit greedy, but with a bit more luck we will have the lions calling again this evening. I don't think they're going to be active very soon, It is hot, like I say, and lions don't like it when it's too hot. They are animals of leisure when they can be, and they will in all likelihood only begin to get active, I'm guessing, in around about 2 hours time at around 5 p.m. as it begins to cool. But I'm going to keep tabs on what's going on the radio. I've got an earpiece on and I'm linked into the final control room, who I communicate with in order to make sure the broadcast's going well and that the signal's coming through clearly, and also the game drive vehicles. Now, there's a lot of different lodges in this area, and the safari companies that bring their guests here and come out and have a good time just like we're having, and we all communicate with one another and share knowledge, information on animals, what they're up to. So I'm sure there will be some people heading to the lion a little bit earlier on, and as soon as we get an update or an inkling that they're going to be on the move, that's when we'll dash in. It's never an easy decision planning a game drive, because we do never know exactly what the animals will do. We've only got ideas of what may happen, but they tend to often prove our predictions wrong. Anyway, we've got a good idea of how their behavior works, and it might be worth investing our time elsewhere looking for something else exciting. Who knows, we could find a leopard walking down this road rather than going to the lions, when in all likelihood there's not going to be too much action there. I must be honest, the dam we are going to, or the waterhole, is my favorite waterhole on the property. It's beautiful scenically, but also we've had a number of memorable sightings there. Now, that's not to say that incredible stuff doesn't happen around any waterhole, or lots of the waterholes. It's just that we've been there when certain interesting events have unfolded. Watching Quarantine and a hyena basically co-feed on a hyena on a Inyalaka was very interesting. And Quarantine is a young male leopard who we think managed to catch an Inyala. It's a medium-sized antelope. It was either him that caught it or the crocodile in the dam, so no one's certain, but the crocodile also came out and tried to steal some of the meat from the leopard, and shortly after the crocodile did that, there was also a few hyenas on the scene, and the leopard just lay about 2 meters away from the hyena as it fed on the kill. So they didn't fight with one another, they simply took turns in feeding, which was really interesting to see. It's something that does happen, but is not very often documented. So, a lot of you will also be wondering who's on camera this afternoon, and we teamed up with Andrew, so good to be out with him again, with Stefan now in the camp, which has been a wonderful addition to the team, and looking forward to spending more time with him, as I'm sure a lot of you will be. But because there have been quite a few presenters on the ground, we've been having big gaps between drives, so nobody's going anywhere. It's just there's more of us. So I haven't been out with Andrew for a while now, which is good. And Nikki's in the final control. So those are the team working for WildEarth this afternoon, if you can call it that. We all, like I said earlier, have a wonderful time out here, and all realize how lucky we are to be exploring and adventuring in a place like this. Now, the road I'm about to go down now may have 1 or 2 patches of bad signal. It shouldn't cut out, but if it is a bit shaky, don't go anywhere. As soon as we get up onto the rise close to the waterhole, which we'll be at in about 5 minutes, the signal should improve. taking some time to make sure there's no interesting tracks that could potentially lead us to animals. And if you were wondering where I was looking, I'm looking on the road. It's essentially our equivalent of a newspaper. We don't get through newspapers, but here in the bush we have an incredible array of information on what the animals have been up to the night. A lot of nocturnal animals that aren't necessarily nocturnal in the night. Welcome back everybody, and apologies about the break in broadcast. Through this road without a problem, and others, as we've just experienced, it cuts out, so apologies for that. You didn't miss out on anything, thankfully, and if anything you've come back at a good time, because in a few more corners this time we will be arriving at the waterhole. I've got a feeling that we're going to be in luck. As I was saying a little bit earlier, we are really privileged in information that we can read into every morning and afternoon when we head out. So it's very important for us to drive slowly, check the roads for signs of different animals, especially the animals that are harder to come by, and without actually following their footprints it would be near impossible to find anything out here. It is certainly one of our biggest clues. And on top of what we may find on the ground, on the roads and the pathways, we sometimes also get some audio updates when they see predators. Well, even though I was feeling lucky, and there doesn't appear to be anything here, I still feel lucky. It's not over yet. And we're just going to sneak down to another little corner of this dam. And find what it is. Oh, that'll do. If you see straight in front of us on the water's edge, also on the log behind it, there's another two. And we don't often get to see them out the water, sunning themselves. They tend to be quite shy. And as we get closer to the dams or waterholes, they may slide off their little perches into the water. As it appears one may be thinking about doing now. Oh, Yeah, it saw us. Time to get out of there. So it's essentially a freshwater turtle, the terrapin. They're carnivorous and feed on just about anything. Oh, there's another one. Let's see how long. It's interesting how the two that were further away were the first two to leave. As I was saying though, they are carnivorous and will feed on small birds, fish, carrion, the parasites on buffalo. Oh, there it saw us. Now it's panicking. There we go. Well, I'm surprised that one's made it this far enough, because it took it a while to see us. Oh, can you hear a lot of parrots in the trees? Now, as I stop, you will also hear them screeching, very characteristic call of a parrot. And what I'm hoping is that they may come down to drink. It's one of, oh sorry Andrew, it's one of the best times for us to see these parrots, because they typically sit in the canopies of the trees and therefore often far away from us and difficult to zoom in on. It sounds like they're in the marula tree that Andrew is busy panning through. I haven't seen any, but it certainly sounds like that's where they are. They're small parrots about the size of a dove. Well, as I was saying earlier, even though we can read into signs that are visible on the ground, on pathways, on tracks, even on the trees where animals may have rubbed up against trees, there's sometimes clearly visible tracks or signs that can lead us to animals, but again there's the audio, and it's important just to sit quiet like we are now and not only listen to the parrots but also listen to any other potential animals that may give us a clue as to what may be going on in our surroundings.
I think I found one.
Okay, is that a parrot?
It's a bird, I think.
I think that could well be one. I'm trying to find it though in my binoculars, and for some reason I think you might have a different angle to me.
It's in the trees at about 12:30.
Oh, there we go. That's 100%. Andrew's nailed it. Well done. I was in the wrong tree. So they weren't sitting in the marula tree, they're sitting in a knobthorn tree. And well spotted, Andrew. As I said, they tend to hide away high up on those big trees. But if they came down to drink, that would certainly help you to see it better. And they are pretty parrots. The only one we get in this specific area, but in the surrounding area we do get another two further north of us in the Kruger National Park. There was a crocodile at this dam, and it hasn't been seen for a few days. Mark tells me he saw tracks of a crocodile heading down the Mulwati drainage, which is the biggest riverbed that runs through our property, and it could well be that same crocodile that's left this dam, which is a pity. It only spent a couple of weeks here before heading off, and they are such wonderful animals to view. We had some really interesting sightings actually. We saw it eating a few fish one afternoon when there was a large herd of buffalo here. Go ahead. So one thing that I have not touched on this afternoon is the latest updates on Jigger. Now, for those of you who don't know Jigger's our other vehicle, and sadly it's had to undergo some intensive surgery. It's having an engine transplant, and the doctors say it's going to be okay, but there's still a lot of work to be done before it is completed. So the ball is definitely rolling in the right direction for it to be fixed, but when exactly we're not too sure. And as a lot of you would have known from our previous updates, keep changing. So I think we're just going to let you know that the engine transplant is all underway. A new engine got brought all the way up from Johannesburg by Alex, who's back in camp now, so great to have him. He arrived this morning, Alex Foss, and he's one of our technical geniuses that's been with WildEarth for many years, and he's back in the field, and he brought in the new engine that we're going to pop into Jigger. But as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, changing the engine of a vehicle is not a small operation. I wonder if we're not going to find a snake slithering around on this hot afternoon. There still has been quite a lot of activity of snakes. We sadly don't get to see them very often, but we do see their tracks crossing the roads. Again, update we get from the ever updating daily news. It can be extremely interesting because you may drive down a road and 10 minutes later come back down the same road, or know that somebody's driven there just ahead of you, and you may notice a snake would have slithered across the road between when yourself and that other vehicle may have been there. It's just minutes apart, and even if you get out and look, you often don't find anything. So they tend to steer away from us, which is a good lesson to learn, I guess, because it does cast the message that snakes aren't actually looking for trouble, and where they can, they avoid us. But obviously it's easy for them to detect us coming because we're in a vehicle, and they may feel the vibrations long before we get there. It's just that when we may creep up on them or actually try to harm them, that they may feel that the best option for them is to strike out in defense. Anyway, thankfully that doesn't happen very often, and as I was saying, the snakes are still active, not nearly as active as they were in the height of the summer. I always find it interesting when it's windy. You typically don't tend to see as many animals, but they've surely got to be here somewhere. It's just And no, I lie, not animals in general. Certain animals like birds and a lot of the prey animals, the antelope, they've got to be hiding somewhere. It's just where, I don't know. Go. Kathy in Ohio, good afternoon and welcome on board with us. I hope you're having a great afternoon. Well, Kathy is interested to know on an update on the Birmingham Coalition of Male Lions. And for those of you who have not seen these lions on our previous broadcasts, it's a bunch of 5 males. They have clanned together and are now going about setting up their dominance and trying to establish a territory of their own. And we were lucky enough to have them spending a little bit of our time, their time on our property, but they are flying below the radar, so they're still busy growing, getting bigger and stronger, because they're not quite fully grown yet, and they need those big manes for if they do get into a fight, they've got some protection. So they don't have the protection required yet for getting into any serious fights, and therefore are kind of slinking around between the dominant coalitions in this area. The last I heard of them, Kathy, was that they were north of us in a reserve called the Magnoleti, which is open to the Sabi Sands and the Kruger National Parks, a part of this greater ecosystem that all this land falls into. And I think the reason why they're there, Kathy, is that there's a lot more open plains in that area, and large herds of buffalo like to feed on these open plains. And the Birmingham boys, this coalition of 5 males, are expert hunters of buffalo. So it makes perfect sense for them to be in an area where there are lots of buffalo running around, as they've got lots of food on tap. In terms of coalitions in the north that they would need to be cautious of, there is a coalition called the, oh, I've just forgotten. I think it could be the Salati, no. I've just gone blank on the coalition of the other males, but I'm sure some of the viewers will be able to refresh my memory. We've only seen them once or twice this far south on our property, but they do spend a lot more time in the Magnoleti. So there's a coalition there, but I'm not sure if it's 2 or 4 members strong. We just saw 2 members on this property when they were here, and it is not uncommon for coalitions to split up and rejoin. Huh?
Matimbas.
No, these are these ones that we see here, the Matimbas, Andrew. There's another one that's just slipped my mind. Anyway, Kathy, that is the last I heard. They're further north of us, but again, that was the last I heard. They could be anywhere now. My plan at the moment is to continue heading to the waterholes again. It's very hot, and I feel that it is our best place to find some animals. And through default, that's going to take us past the line a little bit earlier than I naturally would have. It's not a problem. And we'll therefore be able to have a quick squiz, see what the line are up to, which I can almost guarantee you that they'll be sleeping, but hopefully I'm wrong. And there's another water hole nearby after we head past the lions, so just to keep you updated on my thoughts. Like I say, in this windy weather, the animals tend to hide out, and I'm hoping the only thing that will draw them out in this dry and hot day will be the water. Go ahead. Copy that, guys. Well, it's interesting. We've just got a question through from Tony all the way in the Netherlands. Afternoon, Tony, and welcome. And Tony's interested to know which snake is the last snake that I would like to encounter here in South Africa. And as I've received this question all the way from the Netherlands, I've noticed that there's a snake skin dangling in this little bush behind us, and I'm going to jump out and grab onto it and have a closer look and actually see if we can be able to identify what snake it was. So Tony, I will get back to your question in a second, but who knows, maybe this in fact will be the snake that I would least like to see. Okay, now it's not easy, but you will probably notice the covering of the eye on the corner there. It doesn't look like a very large eye, and that if it had have been a large eye, it would have led me to believe that it was a snake called a boomslang, or a tree snake. The fact that it's a small eye and the fact that the skin is quite broken up is going to make it very difficult for myself to identify it, but certain experts would be able to look at the way the scales form and certain combinations of scales both on the top and the belly of the snake, and you can actually tell what snake fairly accurately it was just from looking at the skin. This one I won't be able to though, and I'm just going to put it back on the tree where I found it. But back to Tony's question, the snake that I would least want to see in South Africa would probably be the black mamba. Now, The black mamba is a notorious snake because it's got a highly neurotoxic venom, so it attacks your nervous system and can therefore often shut down your organs, and therefore you will die. So they do cause deaths in South Africa, and probably more than any other snake. They are also very quick. They can be 3 meters long and about this thick. They're sinister looking. They're a gunmetal grey. They're not actually pitch black in coloration. It's actually the inside of their mouth that's black, and that's why they've been called the black mamba. And yeah, that would be the snake I would least want to have to deal with. I have only on one occasion had to remove a black mamba from a room at a camp that I was working at in Tanzania, but that thankfully was not a very large one. It was about 1.5 meters in length, and we also had the proper tools and special extended tongs that help you to, or forks that allow you to clamp onto the snake gently without hurting it, but to be able to relocate them. And that was a nerve-wracking experience. So actually, I guess I have come face to face with the black mamba, but it was only once. Other snakes, if you treat them fairly gently and you do have the right tools and knowledge, you can relatively safely remove them when you need to from areas where there may be people or kids running around, so you certainly don't want snakes there, but you also don't want to necessarily kill the snake. So if you are ever in that situation, you can call people that come, and they're experts. They're the people that get brought out to the safari camps to teach the guides how to catch snakes, as it is something you have to do at most camps where you work in case there's a snake in your guest's room. But thankfully the black mambas don't like the infrastructure too much, and it's only been the one occasion that I've had to see one. Another funny story though, Tony, about a black mamba. It was here in the Sabi Sands, and it was early on in my guiding career. The tracker that I was working with was an absolute character, and for those of you who don't know, the tracker is the person who actually sits on the vehicle, and there'll usually be a seat here with a backrest, and he sits here for the game drive and can look down at the tracks on the roads, focus on the task at hand, reading the newspaper. And the tracker that I was working with, his name was James, extremely knowledgeable. He had been working in the bush for over 20 years, and we were following the tracks of a young male leopard. We actually didn't have guests. We went out on a tracking team to help find animals for the other game viewers, and following tracks of a young male leopard, probably the same age of Quarantina and Kunyuma at the moment. And we got to an area where the road was quite hard and rocky, and therefore couldn't see the tracks easily, but we knew they would probably continue in that same direction. So we were walking fairly quickly to get onto a sandier patch of road, and all of a sudden James said, "Stop," and I stopped, and there was a black mamba just ahead of us, probably 20 meters away. So there was plenty of space. We weren't concerned for our lives. There was no danger. There was a lot of space between us, and it actually had no idea that we were there. But it was big. Its tail was one side of the road and its head was in the grass on the other. And we needed to carry on with our business, so he just decided to chase the snake away. So he picked up a small pebble and threw it in the direction of the snake. And excuse me, as soon as the stone left his hand, it was small, I knew that it was going to be a good throw, and it bounced once, and on the second bounce it hit the snake. And the snake got such a fright that it started slithering wildly, and then incredibly fast, straight towards us. It didn't know where the stone had come from. We were on a slight decline, so the snake's easiest and fastest route was downhill towards us. And myself and James took off into the bush, laughing hysterically at one another. And then thankfully, again, just like he warned me for the snake, he then grabbed me and said, "There's the leopard." And the leopard that we were looking for had watched this whole event unfold from the comforts of a marula tree nearby. So that was one of my fondest memories, and I guess craziest stories from all my years out here. Getting chased by a mamba into a leopard. Thankfully both of them didn't have any problem with us in the end, and the other game drive vehicles came over and had a wonderful sighting of actually both the snake and also the leopard. The snake slithered up into a tree. We kept an eye on it, and like I say, we don't see snakes very often, so a lot of the guests coming in to see the leopard would stop on the way in and get a beautiful sighting of a black mamba coiled up in a tree. That doesn't happen very often out here. We have seen a black mamba a few times here, Tony. I've seen it definitely twice, possibly 3 times. All up on the quarantine clearings, which is close to our camp, and fairly sizable, about 2.5 meters. Possibly the same one, but hard to say. They were both very brief glimpses, and they're very shy and secretive snakes, typically the mambas. This is a pity. This is a male leopard tracks. They're heading in the wrong direction. I'm just going to have a check though, even though the road on our left is our eastern boundary. I just want to have a check to see if the tracks do cross over. And that way I can let the vehicles who do search this area that there could well be a leopard nearby. So even though immediately it may not help us, it's going to help the others. And who knows, maybe that leopard, if they find it, may head back. And then they'd get a hold of us on the radio and let us know that there's a leopard coming towards us. So I'm just going to have a quick look to see if it does cross. But basically, it was coming along this road and has veered towards us over here. So I think it may well be gone. So, I cannot see any tracks actually crossing the road, but what I do know is that the road to our right, behind us where the leopard has come from, is not a very busy road and may not necessarily have been driven on this morning. If it had been driven on this morning, it would have meant that this leopard has moved after the vehicles have been there, because the tracks are on top of vehicle tracks. Now, this other road to our left here, where it was heading towards crossing, is a much busier road. I know it would 99% chance would have been driven today, and probably more than once. So any indication of that leopard crossing this road would have been ridden over, and all the dust and sand from as the vehicle passes would have fooled any signs of it crossing. So that also helps us to not only establish that, or importantly it helps us to establish that the tracks are probably from last night, not midday. That means it could be very far off from here. I'll still let the guys know. As a lot of you who would have joined this morning's drive would know, I was not out on drive, so I do not know exactly what was going on to the tiny details of roads that individuals may have driven. I did get in-depth updates from Mark then in terms of what he saw and what went on with his drive. You may have noticed how I slid my foot around some of the tracks, and this is to make it easy for other vehicles to notice them, as that's a very distinct mark and noticeable mark in the road. It also just lets guys know that people have already assessed those tracks. And I'd be willing to hazard a guess as to who that leopard may be. Now, I could very well be wrong, but we do get a good idea of where the animals are moving. And not only that, but also who exactly they are. Now, there's a young male leopard called Quarantine that's been lingering around these areas over the last week or so. There's another male, I guess it could be, called Bahuti, but we've only seen him on our property once. He typically spends more time to the south, but also a young male. So judging from the size of the track as well as the area, we can fairly accurately establish at least that it's a young male, not a large male. And he walked all the way down this road. His tracks continue going in the opposite direction, but he has walked down this road a long distance. Just a few minutes until we get to the next waterhole, and that is the waterhole where the lion are resting, or at least they were resting there this morning. I would be extremely surprised if they're not there this afternoon, especially on a hot day like this. And they will be, just as myself and Andrew, looking forward to the sun to drop a little bit lower down towards the horizon and let things start cooling off a bit. I think that's when we can start expecting some more action, and the bush will then become alive, I'm hoping. Andrew spotted some vervet monkeys. I wonder where the best spot is. I think we might be on here. On the floor. Oh, yeah. There's quite a few in this tree, and I didn't see one of them, so thanks Andrew very much for spotting them. Now, this is a young vervet monkey that you're looking at here. Oh, and it's gone back to sleep, so this gives you an idea of the conditions we're in at the moment. It is hot and the animals are sleepy, and if a vervet monkey is asleep, I can almost assure you the lion are almost in a coma. Let me see if I can reposition, because the one that's sleeping actually is very cute. But I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get at the angle. Let's try though.
Oh, that's quite good.
Well, that's as good as it's going to get, but that's one comfortable monkey if I've ever seen one. Oh, there's one right here, even better. Andrew and I both spotted one at the same time here, far closer by. also looking very relaxed. That is a serious pose he's striking there. You can almost tell by the look on their face that they're not happy with this hot weather, and they're also possibly a little bit concerned already with this dry winter, or abnormally dry winter that we're heading into. In this area, it's been told that, or it's been kind of noted that there's almost like a 7-year cycle. And in that 7-year cycle, there will be good weather, good rainy weather for 7 years, and then potentially a drier year. And it's around 7 years now, so it does kind of fit in with the cycles or trends of drought weather. That's a big male you can see sitting up there, possibly the dominant male of the troop. And we're just going to pan around to the other individual that's changed his position now. And you could say it's almost kind of some yoga pose, I'm not sure. But nothing to worry about. He's not the dominant male yet, but he is a little male, and who knows where he will end up one day. He will have to leave the troop, but not for a while. Judging by its size, it could well have been born around November or December. Okay, well, I've just been contacted by Aubrey, who's on another vehicle asking for an update, so I'm just going to have a quick chat with him. Good afternoon, Aubrey. It's just myself out so far, and no updates. I'm about to arrive at Twin Dams, so I'll let you know about the Madoda and Gala there. Okay, copy, will do, Orbs. Haven't seen any sign of them this afternoon. So, Aubrey this afternoon is hoping to find some giraffe, as am I, but there's not many giraffe in this area, especially at this time of the year. There don't seem to be many hanging around. And that's a good example of how we will communicate with one another and share information so that we can all see as much as possible out here. Well, I was speaking about listening to messages that animals may be letting out and that we may read into. And these vervet monkeys are certainly one of the loudest and most useful reporters that we have out here. We can hear their alarm call, which I'll just make gently now, even though they probably won't react to it. I don't want them to think that there's any threat. So I'm just going to make their noise quickly that we need to listen out for, and it goes something like this. But we can hear it from many kilometers away, probably a mile or two away, depending on the conditions and terrain. And from their calls we can informed of leopard by these animals, and because they're so often up in trees, there's great vantage points for them to spot leopard from. Now, you may be wondering what this little monkey's doing here, and It's actually trying to chew on small pieces of crystallized gum. And as they keep doing this, the trees will keep seeping the gum, and that way they can keep coming back and sustainably harvest small amounts of this crystallized and often sugary gum. And that's a good sign. Waking up from a little midday siesta and snacking on some little crystallized sweets. And baboons will also do it. We've noticed baboons doing it on a marula tree the other day. This is a knobthorn acacia. So interesting to know that they will harvest the sap from different trees. Awesome, look at this. That was incredible. It was a great indication of how agile and how comfortable they are in the trees, even when they are this young. This, like I say, would probably only be about 3 or 4 months old. And we noticed an influx of babies over the summer, and it is typically the season that we will find most of the baby monkeys, and also antelope in this area. As well as the birds, it's the baby season, the summer. Now you'll notice he's feeding on the seed pods from this acacia tree. So not only the gum, but at this time of the year, the seed pods are also a delicacy. Now I guess this little act that we're witnessing here could very well be the germination of another acacia tree, the initial steps thereof. And it's so important for the various animals to feed on the fruits and seeds of the various trees in order to help disperse the seeds throughout this area. There's constant growth out here, and it's so important for all the animals that there is this constant growth, because animals like elephants will come through and knock over big trees, making space for new ones. And when the new ones grow, they may be edible to certain animals that they will no longer be edible to when they grow up. So it's an important cycle that needs to be continued and everlasting. And that little monkey was helping disperse some acacia seeds across the bushveld. Well, they really are striking some serious poses. You could almost get a vervet monkey calendar shoot, and I'm sure a lot of you will be firing away with your screenshots this afternoon. We don't get to see the monkeys too often, and they're very seldom this relaxed or this lethargic. So we're getting spoiled with some great images of them. Oh, just a reminder, some of you may have heard Tony from the Netherlands asked me a question earlier about snakes. You too can ask questions, and it's very easy. You would just hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Yep, the youngster's on the move again. It seems to be the most lively of the whole troop, and Andrew just spotted it on the move. Let's see what it does next. Now, bearing in mind that this is a thorn tree with lots of hooked thorns on it, it's incredible that they don't ever get snagged. Oh, it's found another seed pod. Here we go. Sorry, last station reading you 2 out of 5, but try again. Copy that, thanks. We've just got a question through from Lynn on Twitter. Good afternoon, Lynn, and welcome to the Monkey Tree. Now, Lynn is interested to know whether this is an entire troop that we can see in the tree, or whether it may be a small portion of the troop and the rest of the troop could be elsewhere. Hard to say, Lynn, but there don't need to be in this area huge quantities of monkeys in an individual troop, and from what I've noticed there have been anywhere between 10 and 20, and I'm sure that there are about 10 in this tree. We probably haven't shown you all of them because there's a lot of obscured branches that we cannot see. Let me count now quickly how many I can see. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, this isn't going well. I can only count 3, but I know there's more in there than that. How many can you... I can see a 4th in the fork. 1 fork. 5th. 1 on this side. 6. There could be more nearby, and there aren't too many, so it's a good observation from you. But troop sizes will vary greatly on the area that you're in, and just the luck of that specific troop on the day. Troops will, just like prides of lion, will increase and decrease over the years. Well, it appears that this little youngster's come up to say hello to us. It's now the closest monkey to us, and it's almost as if it knows it's playing along with the game. And it's found another seed pod, as you'll notice. You'll also notice all the hooked thorns on the branches that he's holding on to. You'll also notice he's actively fishing out just the seeds, not eating the pod that they come in. And that long tail will certainly help in their arboreal escapades and keeping balance. They don't use them as a prehensile limb very commonly, but have been known to be able to wrap their tail around a branch to a degree. Other monkeys will use it commonly, but the vervet monkeys, not that I've seen. They're the only monkey we get in this area, and in other parts of South Africa you do get a few other species, but this is the only monkey that we'll see here. But other primates that we could expect to see would be baboons and just like these monkeys, they also spend their days foraging for food. Whereas there's also a nocturnal primate, which doesn't really look like a monkey, but it is a primate nonetheless, and that's a bush baby, and we've been seeing those around a little bit after dark. But it's very often just a fleeting glimpse. Off to the next seed pod he goes. Okay, well, we are going to leave this troop of monkeys, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful sighting. Thanks very much, Andrew, for spotting them. It's been the first major sighting we've had other than the start at Buffelshoek Dam, and there was a few old buffalo bulls there. And he's got another interesting pose. This one's certainly been the poser of the day. Yes, you. Okay. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that sighting. Like I say, it's very often that they're moving too quickly for us to really show you good images of them. But on this hot and windy afternoon, the animals, I feel, will be fairly lethargic until things cool down. And in this scenario, it worked out greatly in our benefit because we got to see some interesting angles on those monkeys that we don't often get to see. Now, even though those monkeys seemed quite lethargic this afternoon and cute, they can be sly and cunning at the same time. We've had our camp kitchen raided a couple of times, and just like us, they like sweet and tasty things, so they typically take all of our treats when they do manage to break into the kitchen. So we have to be very vigilant with making sure all the doors and windows are closed in the kitchen. Interesting. I see some impala up ahead standing in the road, and we're very close to the dam where the lion are now. It looks like these impala may be heading in the direction of where Mark left these lion this morning. So we'll get up there in a second. We'll have a closer look. It's a very small item of prey for a lion, very quick, which doesn't make it easy for lions to catch. important to always scan the riverbeds, because one day we're going to find a leopard in one of them, as we have in the past. It's always good to double check, but nothing there this time. So as I was saying, lion will typically try and avoid trying to catch prey that they know they'll battle to catch. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Fine, you?
Very good. Have a great afternoon, guys. Do you know about the Ngala here?
This other side.
Yeah.
Just on the other side of the wall.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we're heading there.
Now.
We're going to head there now.
Yeah, apparently I think it's 1 mile and 2 females.
Okay, cool.
The one big mile went north this morning.
Okay. Thanks very much. We'll see you later.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye. So, some other people out on safari enjoying their afternoon. So, as I was saying, it's not likely that the lion will actively go after these impala, especially in the daytime, but it certainly will be interesting to see what happens if the impala head close to the lion. Now, the lion are on our right, the impala are all around us. And I'm just going to have a quick look here. This is a bachelor herd of impala, and we are getting into the rutting season. So there's a strong chance that these males may start to display and start fighting with one another, chasing one another around. In the meantime, though, this one seems to be getting ready for battle, getting itself groomed and gleaned by some more red-billed oxpeckers, the same birds that were on the buffalo a little bit earlier. I've got an incredible ability to cling on to the impala, as you can see, and it's got specially designed foot structure for that. It's 2 of its toes will point forward and 2 will point back, just like a woodpecker, whereas most birds you see have got 3 toes in the front and 1 at the back. Oh, look at this impala just in front of us. Interesting, it's got very white spots on its rump. So that's an indicating feature that sets it apart from the rest. And I haven't noticed this one. I've seen another one with a white spot on its back, but not quite that speckled coloration. Now I'm interested to see, there's a few of these impala beginning to run about in excitement, and they may start building up the tension and testosterone and potentially chase one another around. Like I said, it is the beginning of the rutting season, and we've heard it and seen it just on a few occasions so far where they'll chase one another around, letting off a loud burping, gurgling roar. Just gonna, okay, now we can get a better idea of what's going on, because here we can see not only the impala but also another animal. So Andrew's going to slowly zoom in on what we think could be something of interest to all of us. Oh, left a bit, and then slowly in. There we go. Now, that may appear to be like a bush, that dark shadow in the middle, but it is the large head of a big male lion. Now, I wonder where the lioness could be. And she could well be more inclined to stalking these impala than the big male would be. But again, it is hot and very bright sunshine, So the lion could well be fast asleep. What I'm going to do is just carry on and have a closer look at the lion, just to make sure the lioness is there, not busy stalking these impala. The impala also don't seem to be performing as much as I would have liked them to have. I was hoping that they were going to chase one another around. Like I say, it's not quite the full rutting season yet, and they're just beginning to warm up. The next full moon is often used as an indicator for the rutting season, or a starting point for the rutting season. Now this is interesting. No, it's not that interesting. I thought that the lioness had moved off, but she's just ahead of us, lying beyond the other male lion. So the one in front of us, you'll see, is, like I imagined, comatose, and the one just behind him and beyond him is the lioness that's been playing hard to get. She did have her foot up a second ago, but you can just see a tawny colour there and her stomach slowly breathing in and out. So those two are the potential lovebirds, but she has not given in to the male yet. Then this individual on the right is the not so fortunate individual who is bystanding this romantic getaway. He's a bystander, and he won't let the dominant male between the two of them out of sight, but why I'm not exactly sure, because he has accepted defeat, and that is why he's distanced himself. If he got any closer to this lioness, the other male lion would confront him, and there will occasionally be confrontations. They have to happen every now and then in order to establish who actually is boss. But once that has happened, it won't be a while until a less dominant male would try his luck again. So it's just a healthy respect, which makes sense because he obviously respects this lion for a reason, and is obviously not as powerful as him. So even though they are partners in the same coalition, when ladies get involved, it's every man for himself. I'm sure it won't be long until these impala see the lion. The wind at the moment is predominantly in the lion's favor. It's blowing from the impala towards the lion. So they won't be smelling the lion, but like I say, unless an impala almost stood on top of a lion in the daytime, it would be very difficult for the lion to catch it. And I say that in terms of this specific scenario where there's two big males and one lioness. Big males can and will hunt. Don't be fooled. They can certainly hunt when they need to, but naturally they're going to target bigger, more dangerous prey to bring down, like buffalo. That's more suited to their build. I'm just going to creep up and have a look at what's going on at this dam, and then continue on to another waterhole before returning here a little bit later. Leaving the position of these Madora and Mafazingala twin dams, they are lying up. Now, apologies, I know you didn't get the best views of the lion there, But we just have to be patient. We will return here later, and there will be very little that would prevent me wanting to return to this, because we have the prospect of hearing these lions vocalize this evening. The fact that they were vocalizing this morning is a good indicator, and if we're exceptionally lucky, we will get to hear it and see it again. But as you could tell from their behavior, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything for a while. And once it does cool down, I'm guessing in about an hour or so, we may start seeing some changes in their behavior. But until then, let's head off and look for something else. There is so much going on here, it's just a matter of finding it, which can sometimes be tricky, but it is part of the adventure to simply drive around and see what's out there. It changes from day to day, but in general we do get absolutely spoiled. Andrew, yes. Is there anything in specific that you would like to do this afternoon, or go and check? Are you feeling lucky? Oh, before Andrew answers this question, it's important to know that the cameramen are often the individuals who suggest where we should go and look for the animals when we find them, and or spot the animals just finding them wherever we are. So it's important every now and then to incorporate them in the decision making, because they have a way of choosing the right things. It's an uncanny cameraman ability. So Andrew, I'll let you think about things, but I mean, you could even just let it be left or right at the next fork. I'm happy either way.
The problem is, before the drive I said to you we should go find elephants, but we've covered all the dams.
Not yet, we've got one more, so should we go to the next one?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Perfect. So Andrew wants to see elephants, as do I. There haven't been too many elephants moving through the property over the last few days, but it really is phenomenal how often and how quickly that can change. Elephants are animals without territories. They simply move wherever they think they're going to find food and water. Predominantly food, though. They can go for a few days without water. And there's a lot of water in this area in general in terms of water holes. So they will be moving depending on where the food is. Now, obviously they've got to cover big distances in order to get to different areas of food, and sometimes they are here and sometimes they aren't. This afternoon I haven't seen any fresh tracks of elephants, so no sign to go on, but there's nothing to say that they have just been simply walking in areas where I have yet to go or see tracks. Hopefully these clouds that Andrew is busy showing you all will cover the sunshine, cool things down, and start getting a little bit more life out here. It's just a matter of time until it cools down, but the clouds will certainly help it cool down faster, and as I said before, I really feel that the bush will then become alive. So the next waterhole is nearby. Failing the waterhole, we may possibly be able to sneak into the high sneak into the hyena den site, have a look what's going on there. But again, I feel it's just too hot for any adult hyena to be wanting to be pestered by their cubs for food and play. So the hyena mate too want to delay things until it cools down. Elephants are our best bets. Elephants don't mind the heat as much as the other animals, and when they do get hot, they've got the ability to go swimming stress-free. So that is what we got to hope for. Radio check. Thanks. Okay. This is what we were hoping for. There are some leopard tracks here. I just want to have a closer look and establish if they were seen this morning or if they are from sometime between this morning's drive and now. And to do that, I need to just check a little bit more thoroughly, but I feel that these tracks could be fresh. Okay, good news. It looks like a young male leopard's tracks from sometime between the game drives. So that means relatively fresh. It could have been 10 minutes ago, or it could have been a few hours ago, but we know it's heading in this direction. Because this road is sandy, and I know I'm fairly certain I've been checking clearly before I got here, I feel that it may have veered off. And I just want to walk back and establish where it may have veered off the road into the bush. And that way we can then circle back and start searching for this animal. Okay, so I couldn't find where tracks veered off this road, but they did continue down the road in the opposite direction we've been coming from. So what we're going to do is, just going to head to the dam because we're very close to it, and then come back and check a road in the direction that his movement is heading towards, and hopefully we'll find his tracks crossing another road, or who knows, maybe we'll just bump into him. But first I do want to check the water hole. Thereafter we continue the search for him. The reason why is we are close to the water hole, and we could bump into something else there. It's not easy driving in the opposite direction to fresh tracks, but occasionally it must be done. I'd like to try and show you the tracks, so I'm going to look for a good spot, but it's not easy with the camera being mounted on the vehicle. You didn't manage to show the tracks while we were waiting there, Andrew?
I was trying, I'm not sure how they came out.
Okay, cool.
But I was trying my best.
I have no doubts in that. So Andrew thankfully did try and show you the tracks, so you may have made out a few imprints in the sand. Well, we've got a large amount of buffalo bulls, and that's probably because they avoided the other water hole due to the fact that there was some lion there. Now, as you can see, all is very peaceful in the world of these male buffaloes, and as I mentioned earlier, they do command a lot of respect and are very difficult and dangerous animals to hunt. Would have been interesting to know when the leopard was here. I'm fairly certain it would have just come round and slunk onto the other side of this dam and had a drink with the buffalo on the other side, but I'm fairly certain it would have come close past these buffalo. But we're hoping to find something a little bit more lively than these old boys. So we're going to leave them to it and get back onto the trail of this leopard. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Josh in Ohio. Josh, I hope all is well in Ohio, and welcome on board this live safari this afternoon. Josh is interested to know, how do we establish how fresh tracks are? Now, it's important to clear up initially, Josh, that you get exceptional trackers who undergo different tests, essentially, tracking assessments. And it's not just being able to necessarily follow the tracks of an animal and find it. That's one aspect of tracking, but it's also being able to identify tracks of weird and crazy little animals, even wasps that may come down and collect mud at the edge of a waterhole. So you get trackers with incredible understanding of all the different signs on this bush newspaper, but they essentially are far better at reading into it than somebody like myself. Now, for somebody like me, who's essentially a beginner when it comes to tracking, it's an incredible art and skill that takes many years to hone. And what you look for is, you know, like I said, with these tracks, they were on top of the vehicle tracks that in all likelihood would have driven on this road this morning. I wasn't out this morning, so I can't be certain, but I'm confident that a vehicle would have driven down here, and I'm also confident in the clarity of the track. On a windy day like this, and also a very hot day, you'll be experiencing a lot of temperature changes from hot to very hot, and also the wind would affect the clarity of the track. It would blow more sandy granules into it than on a still cool, constant temperature day. And the fact that these tracks look so crisp and clear helped me to guess that they are quite fresh. If they were from late last night, I would be very surprised to see tracks of this clarity and quality. But there's many signs you can look into, Josh. It's on top of vehicle tracks is one thing, but you may also be able to look into the tracks of other animals that may have passed on top of the animal you're looking for's tracks. So birds may have walked over it, and that indicates that in all likelihood there's been some time since the predator was there than when a bird would have flown down and landed and walked there. So all those indicators help you to establish or guess how fresh an animal's tracks may be. It looked like another young male leopard, and I would hazard a guess as it to being Kunyuma, who's one of two young male leopards that we see, two brothers. I thought we saw the tracks of his brother earlier crossing out of our property. About an hour ago we came across those tracks on the drive. Now he was heading towards this road, but I'm fairly certain veered off the road that we were on and may bisect this road here if he was to continue on his course of movement from before, which they typically do. That is, of course, provided he hasn't killed something in the block between the roads, and that sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult for us to track them down. The male lion walked down this road last night before heading towards the other waterhole where we saw them. Well, the good news is that these tracks have steered us towards the hyena den sites. So if we don't come up with any tracks of the leopard, we'll be able to just pop into the hyena den site and be able to sit quietly and listen. And we may hear alarm calls from other animals that may see the leopard on the move, provided it does move into this general area. Stations. I wasn't out this morning, so not sure exactly what is going on regarding tracks, but Mkonzo for the young Madoda Ingwe head east away from Treehouse Dam on Savage's track. They appear to cut north off that road before getting to Weaver's Nest Junction. Nothing's come out on Weaver's Nest. Is anybody at Misikaya or Philemon's Dip? this is the entrance to the hyena den site. So in a few moments, we will either know whether we will enjoy an afternoon with some hyena and their cubs, or if the cubs are still down the hole and the mothers have avoided coming to nurse them until it cools down. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Tiger on Twitter. Good afternoon, Tiger, and welcome on board. I hope you're enjoying your afternoon with us. Tiger's interested to know which animals or which predators hyena have to be careful of. Well, we'll start off with their own species, other hyena. They will compete with one another for territories, so inter-clan disputes are a reality. And then the biggest concern would probably be from lion. It's the largest animal that can quite easily cause damage to hyena, but depending, just heard something rustling in the, there's a snake-like rustle in the leaf litter here, but the leaf litter is not easy to spot things in. I'm just going to stop for a second. That could have been a lizard or even a small ground-dwelling bird like a francolin. But always worth double-checking. Well, there's just a rustle in the leaves, and maybe it's simply because there were snakes in my mind from chatting about them earlier that was my go-to, but could have been anything squirming its way through the undergrowth. Back to Tiger's question though, sadly the den site's not active, and you'll notice the burrows are empty. But lion, Tiger will probably be the most realistic threat in general to hyena. But leopard will kill hyena cubs when they get the chance. This very clan of hyena that live in these burrows were attacked by a wild dog just 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. And the wild dog came out on top this time, but wild dog are a lot smaller than hyena, so depending on numbers, and that goes for all the inter-predator confrontations, it does depend on numbers. A huge clan of hyena, and you do get huge clans of hyena, can easily outcompete and even kill lions if there's enough of them. So it's often a numbers game, but the main predators that they need to watch out for are lion, leopard and wild dog, as well as their own species, the hyena. Cheetah, on the other hand, not likely to cause trouble with hyena or any of the other predators. They're not built for confrontation and typically avoided at all costs. The hyena den site is not active. So now what I'm going to do is I have followed Kunyuma, a young male leopard who I believe is the owner of the footprints we saw a little bit further back. And I have followed him once through this block, and he may have taken the same path or a similar path that he's taken before. And that would have brought him out on this road to our left where we'll go and look now. So we can read into previous habits or previous sightings of the animals, but it's not to guarantee that they're necessarily going to take the same path, but it can be useful. and worth certainly exploring whether in fact he did or didn't take a similar path to last time. Failing this plan, we will turn around and head back on the same route, because I do feel it is worth double checking. Even though we may not see him now, he could pop out at any given stage. This is definitely worth double checking the hotspot areas where he could pop out, and we will do that slowly on our way back towards those lions, because it is beginning to cool down now, and with a little bit of luck we may get them to perform for us. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Tony in the Netherlands. Good afternoon and welcome. Tony's interested to know what would happen if one of the hyena mothers, now there's two mothers at that den site with two different litters of cubs. If one of the mothers was killed and her cubs were orphaned, what are the chances of another female or the other mother adopting the other cubs? It's hard to say. It has been noted before, but it will vary on each individual hyena and the scenario. For example, if the mother of one cub dies and another female only has one cub of her own to raise, she may well accept raising a second cub from another mother. But if she's already got two, that may be too much, and she may simply not want to take on the risk of trying to raise three animals that may all die, and rather consolidates her efforts in just making sure she raises two properly. So there's no yes or no answer to that, but it has been known for them to raise other youngsters. But it's not very common, and what I can tell you is that at this den site, only the mother of her particular cubs will allow them to feed. When the other cub comes nearby to the mother that is not its own, she often snaps at them and chases it away. So there's certainly no sharing of nursing at the moment, and that you may read into and say, well, if they're not sharing now, why would they want to share when there's even more pressure on them? But that again could just be this specific clan, Tony. Finally, the cool relief of the afternoon is beginning to set in, and it's a magical time to be out here. The wind's still blowing, but thankfully the air is becoming less oven-like and much cooler and pleasant. Afternoon, Ryan. Did you get an update? Humble apologies. Oh, welcome to your eastern neighbors. Not too much going on, but the two Matimbas and one Mafazingala line up just south of Twin Dams Dam Wall. And there was tracks of a young Madonna Ingwe, looks like possibly from between drives, heading east on Savage's track towards Weaver's Nest. But I think they may have veered off north of the road, but could well have veered south, I guess. But we're generally heading east. Okay, copy. Good luck. So I was just giving Ryan an update. He's a wonderful guy to have out in these parts, as are all the guides, but got to know Ryan a little bit better than the others. It's surprising, even though there's not many of us in quite a remote location, it's difficult socializing very much. The guides are very busy hosting their guests every evening at dinners, so we don't meet up as often as we would like to. Anyway, Ryan is a wonderful guy, and I was just updating him on what's been going on here on Jimma this afternoon. He's come across from Arethusa, which we do also head across to. So I've seen him a lot out and about, and I've shared a lot of wonderful sightings with him. This would be a good time to find his tracks walking down the road, because then we would know that he's walked down this road just a few minutes after we've been here. We drove down here about 15 minutes ago, and there was no sign of him. So if we do find tracks now, then we know for certain that we are hot on his heels. If we don't, well, then we could be in the completely wrong place. I'm going to check another area. He could have veered off south off the road that he was heading east along, but I was inclined to believe that he was tending more to the north. Imagining things, but termite mounds are very good places for leopards to lie, and there was just a dark figure on the other side of this termite mound, which is just an extension of the mound itself, and therefore a false alarm. But right at the top you may notice just a dark patch that was the one. That's what got me, behind that little green bush. So I thought that could have been the leopard's head. Worth double checking. Otherwise you end up being frustrated for not making sure for the rest of the drive and wondering if that was the leopard you actually drove past. Well, in our scenario, which is that we can't really spend too much time off the vehicle tracking, otherwise we leave you stuck in one position with nobody to talk to. And the fact that we have checked all the roads in the area where that leopard could have popped out, it makes sense for us now to move on and spend some time with these lions. We, in all likelihood, going to be a little bit early, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. They are close to our southern boundary, so that if they do get up and move, that will be the end of that. So we're going to head back towards the lion and hope that they are looking a little bit more lively than they were earlier. For those of you who have just joined, it's 2 males and a lioness. And one of the males and the lioness are thinking about romancing, and the second male is simply staying a safe distance away from his more dominant coalition buddy as he goes about trying to pursue the lioness. Mark was with them this morning. There was no mating going on, and the female was actually having none of the male's attention and acting like he wasn't even there. So that was the update from this morning. Things can change during the course of the day, but not highly likely that they would all of a sudden start mating this evening, but there is a chance. So, small prospects of mating lions, better prospects of hearing them vocalize, I'm hoping. And since I've been here at Juma, which is coming on 5 months now, I have yet to have a really good close-up lion roar. There was one male that walked past the vehicle the other day, but it wasn't ideal. He was a little bit far away. So I'm hoping that I can get to show you and also let you hear the intensity of a roar when we are up close to them. I know Brent has and Mark has had some great quality vocalizing. Copy, thanks for that update. Copy, thanks for running this chart. Just around the corner. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Another vehicle kindly pulled over for us there. So I was just saying thanks. And there was also another vehicle in this sighting. Oh, what have the line done? One you cannot see. The other one we can see. So we will start here.
There's one on the right.
Okay. So there has been a slight amount of movement. But not very much. This male was lying on his back earlier, basically in the same position. There was a lioness beyond this male earlier, but I can't seem to see her now. She was tucked into the vegetation, so could simply be hidden in some thick bush that we cannot see. But then the male over to our right has also moved, and we'll just show you he's moved a considerable distance relative to the one on the left. He was lying up negative, Ryan. It is inactive when I was there about 15 minutes ago. Copy. I don't think anyone else is joining. It's just myself and Ruan here, so unless there's somebody else coming, I'm sure you can come straight here. So the male we're looking at now is the less dominant of the two, and he's the one that has to kind of embarrassingly lurk in the shadows. But thankfully the more dominant male has now poked up his head, and you get an idea of how majestic they are when they do have their head up. Look at that mane, and he is an absolute brute. I'm guessing he's going to flop his head down in the next second or two, but I'm hoping he could prove me wrong. He appears to be lifting his nose into the wind, smelling the air, and they will use their nose to detect prey and also other lion. It could simply be that the scent of, well, there's a marabou stalk. Try and get it quickly, Andrew, if you can. I know it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. It's a massive bird, and there it goes, called the marabou stalk. We see them very seldomly, and well done, Andrew. It's battling in this strong wind, but a bird that I've yet to share with any of you since we've been here. So well done, Andrew, for managing to get a glimpse of it. You could hear it flapping as it came over, and I didn't know what to expect as it popped over the little bush. Anyway, at least you got a glimpse of the marabou stalk there, and that is again a bird that I've yet to see here on Juma, and that's in 5 months. Hence the excitement and the desperation to get Andrew to have a shot at trying to.
I wonder if you should go a meter back.
Yeah, I can.
Maybe I can just get the sunset quick.
Cool.
Sorry.
No. Andrew's seen a sunset opportunity, so we are going to roll back a meter or two. I think he is. How's that?
That's good.
I think he's done a great job here. This is a marula tree silhouette with the sun setting in the background, and what a perfect way to enjoy the sunset whilst waiting for the lions to wake up. Go ahead. Copying you 1 out of 5, but try again slowly. I'm battling to copy messages coming through from the final control, but it sounds like either Judith or Susan, so whoever you are, whichever one you are, you will know, and I'll let all of you know the question that either Judith or Susan is asking. And it's got to do with, would this male, or how long would the less dominant male lion hang around while the more dominant male gets lucky with this lady? And in all likelihood, for the whole time that they are mating, if it does lead to that, the less dominant male will simply lurk in the shadows. That's often been the case in terms of sightings that I've experienced in the past. So they often just hang around and wait for their coalition member to do what exactly needs to be done, and that can take 3 to 5 days if they do start to mate. But of course there's a chance that he could peel off and join up with other members of this coalition. There are 4 members in this coalition as far as I'm aware, but they have split up into 2 groups of 2, if I'm correct. So he could head off and join up with other male lion. Go ahead. Got a question through from Julia in Houston. Good afternoon, Julia, and welcome on board. Julia is interested to know whether the mating process will help induce ovulation, and it certainly will, but coupled with that, lionesses have the uncanny ability to be able to actually withhold ovulation for many days until they do find the right mate to mate with. So the sun is slowly dipping below the horizon, and hopefully that will cause these lions to become a little bit more active. But like I say, on hot afternoons they typically take it easy and wait for things to really cool down before they get up and active. I'm hoping they're going to get up and head straight for a drink as their first stop. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Julie asking where the lioness has gone. So let's find out, Julie. I'm not too sure. Could be somewhere in that thicket, but I'm just going to get us into position. Oh, I'm going to have a quick look in there with my binoculars. No immediate sign of her. Ron, did you see the lioness when you came in? Okay, interesting, because she was lying up behind this male closer to the dam wall. very close to him earlier. We could see her from where we are now, but no sign of her now. I might drive around the dam and have a look. She's hiding under another bush. So we will head off and see if we cannot find this lioness. I'm hoping she hasn't left these males. But could well have. I'm guessing though that she's just sleeping nearby. So we will loop around and I'll be highly disappointed if she has back off without the males knowing. I find it highly unlikely that she would have managed to, because they do after all have hearing. So I'm guessing the male would have heard her move off, and he has been following her very closely this morning, I'm told. It could simply be that the vegetation's just a bit too thick and she may be lying up in an area that we just simply cannot see her. That would be my guess. Well, the other vehicles had no luck. I've just motioned the same no luck signal. So, search continues. Got a question through from Chris in Australia. Good afternoon, Chris, and welcome on board with us. This is interesting to know what pride this lioness is from. I can't be certain, but it's believed that it's one of the Styx lioness. Sorry, I'm just laughing. I didn't find her. She is in the same pit where we left her. She's just literally inside it, so the guys haven't found her. She hasn't done her, and she's this thicken a little bit later, Chris, and then you'll be able to see her for yourself. But yeah, I'm told from the Styx Pride, and as far as I'm aware, we only see it split up into various different parts, the Styx Pride, and there's a few separate groups. I think there's 3 pairs of lioness, all sets. So that is apparently which pride they are from, but it's very difficult to distinguish, especially individual lioness. It could have come from any pride and distanced themselves from their own pride in order to mate. They don't expect the rest of their pride to join in. Just going to creep a little bit further forward in case this one does lift its head up. We might have a half decent view, sorry Andrew, to reposition. Go ahead. Ryan, come in. Apologies, the third vehicle has just arrived here, just to let you know. So we've just got a question through from Remain. Good afternoon, Remain, and welcome on board with us. Remain is interested to know whether this lioness may deem both these males unsuitable for her and head off and look for other males. She could well, but if they were the only two male lion left in the area, I think her natural will to procreate will override her taste for any certain male. She'll take the best possible option in order for her to reproduce. Failing there to be any other options, I think she would settle for them, but it may very well be that she doesn't like these two and heads off to find coalition members from another area. It's very difficult to pinpoint answers like that, Remain, because each individual lioness will be different and each encounter with males will be different, even though there may be patterns that are formed. That's one thing that always keeps us busy out here and keeps things in perspective, is that we can never be sure what they will do. So you can see this male occasionally opening his eyes and just checking us out. Now, I know this may not be the most entertaining of lion sightings the world has ever seen, but that could very well change, and on safari occasionally you just do have to be patient. They will get up at some stage, and when they do, it will be a sight to behold. So that's why I don't want to go anywhere, and even though it doesn't look like anything's happening now, they could at any moment get up, and I'm guessing the lion out of these three that's going to induce a little bit of movement would be the lioness, and sadly she's tucked away in a thicket at the moment, so she's our best bet to getting these guys up on the move, but even she's asleep. Anyway, that could change, and there still is time before this broadcast for things to heaten up a little bit. copy that. That's great news. Thank you for that update. So Aubrey's just got a hold of me on the radio and let me know that he found the giraffe that he was looking for, but it's on a far off property, far too far away from us to get to. But he thankfully eventually succeeded in finding the giraffe. And there's not many around now. We'll probably be seeing more leopard than giraffe and zebra at the moment. So it's a very interesting statistic, because it's not common to see an animal as an elusive and as a leopard more than an animal like a zebra or a giraffe, but that's area specific here in the Sabi Sands. There's not very many open plains and clearings, and that is the habitat that zebra and wildebeest like. So naturally, they don't spend time here because it's the wrong habitat for them. Okay, well, I think we can afford to go on a 10-minute loop about. I'm not sure how much longer I can handle watching these sleeping beauties. So we will do a loop around, see if there's anything else interesting happening, and then return a little bit later. Just going to pull into the bushes here so Ryan can get past. So I saw he is on his way in. Or has he done the same thing? No? So, just a 10-minute loop around the block, like I say, and then we'll continue. Afternoon, Ryan. How's it, everyone? Go ahead. Just got a question through from Nicole here in South Africa. Good afternoon, Nicole. And Nicole is interested to know whether lioness synchronize their breeding. And there are certain people and textbooks that may indicate that. I personally think that it's more likely that lionesses from the same pride in a similar health situation will come into season at a similar time through default more than through planning. If they've been feeding on a lot of good kills and have been successful in hunting, and so essentially just been going through a lucky patch, then yes, certainly it would make sense that they are both in the same physical condition to therefore come into season. So that's how I look at it more likely, and I've often seen it's not every time that you'll see lioness from one pride all come into season together. So it's a tricky one. Why would some lioness decide to and others not decide to? Because it's certainly not guaranteed that every lioness in a pride will come into season at the same time. And this is a perfect example. If this is in fact a lioness from the Styx pride, we know for certain that there's two of them. So why aren't they here together? And even if she's not from the Styx pride and she's from another pride with even more lioness, then why aren't there more hanging around? So I think it's more through default than anything else. But there are certainly some people that believe strongly that they do purposefully coincide their mating. Ryan coming. Please let me know if they show any signs of life. Copy that. So I've just asked Ryan to keep us updated if the lions wake up. And that way it allows us to continue searching for other things. Now, just because there's lion in that area quite close by to us, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a leopard or elephant or anything else wandering around here. So that is what we are hoping for. We will keep close to the lion so that if they do show any signs of movement, we can hurry on back to enjoy that. I wonder where that leopard's tracks really have ended up. Almost tempted to head out over there and have another look for him, but it's far away. So we just have to hope the lions do go faster. Copy. Just got a question through from James in Kansas City. Good evening, James. James has noticed and mentioned that now that it's getting cooler, would the lions actively hunt something if the opportunity presented itself? And yes, I think there's certainly a chance that they would. They're not full-bellied, and they are opportunistic animals, and any easy opportunity they will certainly try their luck at, be it whether they're mating or not. They are less inclined to make kills when they are mating because they're preoccupied. But having said that, they're not going to pass up an easy meal. So, provided something did come close enough to them, they would certainly enjoy devouring it. That I can guarantee you. But there is less likelihood when they are mating. But James, these are not mating, they are simply courting. They are not mating yet, not that we're aware. So they're just courting, and anything can happen when they are courting or even when they are mating. So I could just go again to the first part of the message. Copy that. Just got a question through from Wild Dog Pup. Good evening, Wild Dog Pup, and welcome on board with us. Wild Dog Pup has noticed that there seem to be less animals around, like giraffe and zebra, than there was in the summer months. And most animals, or all animals, their primary role and difficulty is acquiring food. For us as humans, it's money, and then money then allows us to get food and shelter. But for animals, all it is food. So you can safely assume then that whenever animals move from one area to another, it's in search of food. So that is the simple, straightforward answer to that question. There was food that was good for zebra and giraffe at the summer months, but now it makes sense for them to be elsewhere. Ryan for Scott. Just wondering what the vehicle situation is there at the moment. Copy, has anything changed? Okay, copy. Thanks. Well, it looks like the luck was had this morning, and it doesn't appear like we're going to have much luck this evening, but we are certainly going to go back to those lions and stay with them till the end of the broadcast in the hope that they may just get up. And there certainly is a chance, but at the moment they are still asleep. I don't want to miss this opportunity though, because if they do all of a sudden get up and roar and we've decided to head in the opposite direction, I will be furious with myself. So we're going to go and try our best, and by trying our best I mean be patient for the remainder of the broadcast. Failing that, we're just going to have to tune in for another safari when we get to hear them roaring. At least we have taken this time, rather than sitting there watching them sleep, to head out and look around for anything else. Ryan, I would like to rejoin for the last few minutes of the broadcast. Affirmative, it's my only option, it appears. Okay, copy, thanks. Well, Ryan seemed to think it wasn't the best idea that we were returning to the lion sighting for the last 15 minutes of the broadcast. He instigated that we should go and look for something a little bit more exciting, but there's still a chance that they do get up, and I don't want to miss that if they do. Good. Got a question through from Kathleen in New York. Good evening, Kathleen, and welcome. Kathleen is interested to know whether, if this lioness does in fact fall pregnant and have cubs, will her den site likely be on property that we can traverse? And no, it would not be likely, sadly, Kathleen. We see the Styx lioness very seldomly on our property, and they typically spend more time to the south. So unless things change between now and then, which they could, it's improbable. Our best bet for a pride of lion and lion cubs would, I guess, be the Nkuhuma pride if the last 5 months is anything to go by. But even them haven't spent much time on properties that we have access to, so we've been a little bit on the downside in terms of lion sightings. We've been exceptionally lucky with leopard, but the lion sadly have not been camping out on our property too much. But again, that can change at any stage. Oh, jackpots. The male lion's just got up and appears to be walking towards us. No, I guess it's simply because the lioness is up and she's off to the right of him, and hopefully they will come out into the open and ideally have a drink. So there you can see he is sniffing her rear quite intently, and they will do a lot of sniffing in order to process the scent of her coming into season. And she is now turned around, I think obviously trying to get away from him, and now he is continuing to follow her. I'm just going to wait a moment or two and establish what exactly they decide to do rather than trying to race around. Oh no, that's not good. No. Back to square one. At least we did see him up, even though it was bushy and blurry with all of the twigs in the way, but I certainly wasn't expecting to see that. The other male appears like it may be providing a little bit more entertainment though than this one that we've just seen lie down. I'm just trying to decide which is our best angle, which is probably right here. So as we were getting into position, this individual rolled over from one side to another. Go ahead.
Good. I'm just going to come past. Yeah.
No worries, Ryan. Ryan's just making his way out of the sighting, and that is why Andrew shot the camera up into the sky. We didn't see anything interesting flying over, sadly. Have a good evening, buddy. Cool. Cheers, everyone. Whoa. Is it just us now, or is there still another vehicle?
I think it's just us.
Okay. So now we are left in peace with the line, just ourselves, so that's nice. And I was just laughing at Andrew. He did a hilarious pose as some of the guests on the vehicle that drove past took a photograph of us. So they're going to have a good one in their album of Andrew. A big cheesy smile on his face and 2 thumbs up. So this individual is certainly our best bet in terms of a visual. And there's just a few minutes left. So if anybody knows how to do some kind of a dance or can rub a special bottle with lion whispering powers, then now's the time, because we would now like to see them get up, go for a drink, and then roar for us.
All in 3.5 minutes.
All in the next 3.5 minutes. So, failing that, we will certainly come back and have a look for them in the morning. We can presume that they are going to move a fair distance from where they are this evening. And unfortunately, we are very close to our southern boundary here. And we are basically on it. And not far from our western. So they could well pass straight through our property in the course of the evening, but we can hopefully, you see down that road, that's where we don't want them to go. We want them to come back this way. Crew this afternoon, Andrew on camera, Nikki in final control, and myself, Scott, driving you around. I hope you've enjoyed the afternoon. It hasn't been the most action-packed, but it's always good being out here, and certainly by spending more time out here and by you joining in on more safaris, it increases your chances of seeing the incredible stuff, and we do get to see some incredible stuff, and those are the moments we hope for. So let's hope that something special happens in the next few minutes. If not, we'll see you all in the morning for the next safari. Wonderful day or more. Okay, see you in the morning. Bye.